God, it was hard being in my house, walking on eggshells, not knowing from one moment to the next what was going to take place. You understand what I'm saying?
So who was responsible for the molestation or what you call rape? Was it a family
My
member,
father,
a friend?
my father between the ages of 24, between the ages of 18 months to 5 years old. And then 3 of my older brothers until I was old enough and came to the conclusion that, hey, this ain't gonna keep happening to me, and I will fight back. And I grew up in Northwest Atlanta. And the complex that I lived in, the section, maybe had about 60 apartments. 2 or 3 times a day, 2 the least, being the least, I would knock on a door. And if a man came to the door and I knew that he was there by himself, I would fondle him. And instead of him slapping me on my wrist, taking me home, saying, let's go tell your parents what you doing, they would engage in sex with me. I need to tell my story so that somebody else know that it's healing for them.
So your book is more like a testimony to the people of where you grew up.
To the people who have walked the same walk that I walked, that don't know how to say, ouch, that hurt. And what I mean by ouch, that hurt is, okay, I'm gonna go somewhere and find somebody that I can let this stuff out to so I can get the healing. Okay, if Cassie Gaines made it through that, and the Bible says that there are no respect of persons, then there's hope for me. There's help for me. I can grow. Because I didn't begin to grow spiritually, emotionally, mentally, until I began to put this stuff out on the tape.
Well, let me ask you this. For every problem, there's a solution.
Okay.
What's the point in your life that, what was the solution to your healing? What made you say, okay, I'm living with HIV, but I gotta go on with my life, and I want where the healing to start? How did you turn to God, or did you what was the turning point?
What led up to my turning point was this day. I think it was around June, maybe the last week in May. My father came home and he told me he was dying. And I began to cry, and he said, don't cry. And I asked him, what did he want me to do? And he said, I want you to be there with me to the end.
Let me ask you this. Given I got a daughter, I got nieces, and they're now experimenting. When they get older, they start thinking about sex. Given your sexual traumatic experience, what was the outcome? What would you tell young women, and once they get into that situation with the sexual fantasies and then leading to the sex addiction, what was your outcome from sex? That lifestyle of just
okay,
addiction.
To answer your question, first of all, I was molested, so I feel like talking to my children, I tell them that I never knew what it was like to say, people ask a question, do you remember your first time having sex? And I can't even grasp the concept of caring about somebody, being in love with somebody, losing my virginity, based on the fact that sex started for me before I was 3. However, what I would like to say is that my drug addiction, my promiscuity, is that the right word? Being promiscuous, it led up to me ending up living HIV positive. Mind you, I'm not dying from anything. I'm living positive. However, I have heard people say that, I have heard it said a lot that experience is the best teacher. However, you can learn from us. It don't have to be your experience. Right. You can learn from mine. I have done all that for you. And again, I like to talk to children at least. I got a 10-year-old that know about AIDS and HIV. I have teenage children, and I have young adult children that I talk to, and I let them know that, okay, all sickness is not death. However, I would wish that people could learn from my experience, that they could learn something from me where they won't end up HIV positive or living with AIDS Because your experience might not be mine. Your story, their story might not be my story.
So what do you expect out writing the book? What do you expect the book to bring about?
You know what? I can answer that by saying, if one person life is spared from all the pain and the hell that I went through, then what I lived was not in vain. I would like to see families brought closer. I would like for mothers and fathers to pay attention to their children, to know where they are at all times, who they with and what they doing, because my mother died not knowing 97% of the stuff that I had been through. You know, my mother went to her grave not really knowing who I was. And I would like for parents to be able to, what's the right word, talk, articulate, to be able to talk to their children, you know. I think my experience with being molested, and I like to say rape because molestation is too nice of a word. Excuse me, but I tell my children that growing up the way I growed up, it's easy for me to talk to y'all, you know, about sex and about drugs and about promiscuousness or promiscuity, whatever the word is. It's easy to talk to them only because I love people. And I don't want to see anybody go through the things that I went through. So if you are a parent, then find whatever kind of way you have to talk to your children. Even if you have to come down on their level, make it where they can understand that you only talking to them because you love them. You talking to them because you don't want them to live a lot of pain. You know, pain, to me, a lot of pain is optional.
So what's the name of the book again?
A Winner Without a Coat. Yeah, my name is Cassie Gaines Johnson. You have just heard my life as it unfolded, my testimony revealing to the world that you do not have to continue hurting. There's power in healing. Look for A Winner Without a Coat, the Cassie Gaines Story, in stores mid-June, written by my spiritual advisor, Miss Gwendolyn Evans Adams.